Everyone, I'm Coyote Jack, and oh well, looks like someone fucking around too much and found out, but not exactly like you think it is. Someone that brags about, oh well, no, the shots are just copying that drag queen age Failhard is a success. Mm-hmm. You know, right now when you want to feel, how do you say this? Feel fulfilled, if this even a sentiment to bring you here, is seeing all these fucking morons that they always brag that how all the chats, the customers, the ones that everyone that got backstabbed by the legacy industry to try to suck the dick of some fucking homosexuals. Well, he has to eat his own words, admit it, because he still needs to make money. And yes, I'm talking about Jason Schreier. The Jason's high pitch boy Schreier. The Jason, I think the sorceress from Dragon's Crown is a lolly Schreier. And it goes by the internet of many, many names. But yeah, I know what I'm just giving you this introduction. You are going to love this article from Tag Park Place. So, reporter who mocked gamers about drag queen age, the Failhard, now calls it a quote-unquote debacle. Blames everything but identity politics for game's failure. Ah, yeah, so it's copy not feeding. This is just a tantrum. So on Halloween of last year, Drag Queen Edge Failhard launched to a quick flash of attention on Steam. For a few hours, BioWare's long-delayed fantasy RPG topped several charts. That short-lived momentum was all it took for Bloomberg's Jason Schreier to mock the game's critics with a snide post on social media. And yeah, that fucking post is, well, still remembered to this date. Go, bro, air up the chairs! And the jab was aimed squarely at players who had raised red flags about the game's directions. Players who were ridiculed for daring to question wherever a beloved franchise had abandoned its roots in favor of trend-chasing aesthetics and cultural posturing. And just months later, Failhard had become one of the most disastrous releases in modern gaming history. EA quietly pushed the games into its steep discounts. Even they gave it them on PlayStation Plus, not the expensive one, the most cheapest ones that give you rented games. Well, digital rented games, because that's what it is. Each month they renew what kind of games can get to that subscriptions and accumulate them. And they even gave that shit, and nobody, or at least almost nobody, l- dared to even claim that. Not even the Sony ponies wanted that shit in their catalog. It's like a red cross. Oh man, it's fucking hilarious. That to that degree, not even I don't want this shit, not even free. So continue on. The player base collapsed. Layoffs hit BioWare. The game's director resigned after the damage he has done. And now, in an extraordinary about face, Jason Schreier has published a lengthy article calling the game a debacle. Because sure, you call that shit a debacle when you think the argument has two sides, but in reality you think it's one-sided. But yeah, even mentioning that is just cope. This is the clear definition of cope. He lost the plot already, and he refuses to accept it, like a fucking children throwing a tantrum when if that children is not getting that what it demands. This is hilarious, man. This is just great. The salty tears, yeah, it's your enjoyment. it gives me so much enjoyment seeing these morons coping and sitting. Because, yeah, the ones that destroyed what everyone liked about video games is because fucking morons like him. It's because he sided with these fucking parasites that ruined everything. So why will I feel any sort of sympathy for someone that destroyed everything I love, laughed at my face, and when now it's their turn to actually getting slapped by reality and going homeless? Yeah, why would I think I feel sorry for someone like that? And then saying, yeah, it's because of the shots. Yeah, sure, he insulting, he demonizing. I know we demonize you back, and at the end of the day, since we are the large majority, you always go shrinking in the corner of your house that you are going to lose sooner or later when you cannot pay anymore. Because the industry, like I said, the legacy one is just collapsing, and it keeps collapsing. Layoffs keeps happening. They're still doubling down on wokeness. Meanwhile, indies and AA are rebuilding the industry. The only thing they need to take care of is about gatekeeping and to never allow these parasites ever again. But well, let's see what this fucking moron said here. But in nearly 3,000 words of post-mortem analysis, there is one thing Jason Schreier never mentions: the sad criticism he once mocked. The overwhelming fan backlash to the game's identity-driven presentation tone and the marketing. Are you surprised? Of course you're not surprised. But it's still hilarious that everyone that knows about this shit can notice it. It's, it's nice. A masterclass in avoidances. Schreier's article Inside the Drag Queen Age Failhard debacle that gutted EA's BioWare studio is true in many respects. He documented the tortured development process from live service pivots to management infighting to budgetary strain. And there is no doubt that BioWare faced immense pressure from EA to produce a commercial hit. But even among this pressure, I mean, if you still had the people that knows how to deliver good stuff, they could still manage. But sure, they still will be ditched. I know that. I know that at the end of the day, management is the ones that fuck up. But also, let's look at the other side of reality, since they kicked all the talented people outside of the company. They replace themselves with the hires, and they keep hiring their friends of their friends, and friends of other friends are not even friends, sympathizers of the same ideology. Well, you end up with cancer. And with that cancer, are you expecting to deliver? Even among the cancer, you still have some good cells that are going to be overexhausted and dying. And with that analogy, I am referring to developers that they still know how to pull their shit, despite that at this point they should just ditch it, or they don't have anything left for them because yeah, they stayed far too long and they are making a quick buck, but even that's going to be not worth it. Attaching your name to that is not worth it. They are still pulling out everything together, what every single of these hires don't know how to code, or they don't care. Just like many times with studios that hired a lot of load, because look at the money they spent and look at the oversized studios they have, and oversized in human resources. Because yes, the developers are human resources inside those companies. The best example of how much bloat is inside a company is just flat out comparing with the most notorious example of current year. Expedition 33 is the most notorious example of a tiny developer team pulled a fucking masterpiece of current year even. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying the masterpiece of the year, the game of the year. Yeah, that's the kind of name I wanted to put out here. And that game costed even less budget. So all of those arguments that Jason Schreier wants to bring to the table, that yeah, they were problems here, but well, they among themselves they caused the problem because even if management, the executives, they were demanding short terms to pull out this shit just to satisfy investors' dick and wallets. The thing is, they will still make a lot of problems inside. Oh, it is one is racist. Oh, it is one is homophobic. Is transphobic. Just like with my video with that RuneScape guy that say, you know what, let's ditch this shit, let's course correct, we need to bring more money, otherwise we are going homeless. We need to turn the sinking ship back. What happened? Those developers turned on him, and they were running to your average game journalist to demonize that dude that said, you know what, we need to make money. So that's why I don't, I still to this date, I don't know why they are putting so much credit in Jason Schreier. And I'm not talking about your average John Jea, your Alana Pierce, or your Michael Kill HD, because around one time he did that shit. I mean, everyone, even your average normie, saying, yeah, he's a renowned journalist that actually has information. You know why he always gets his information? It's because he's a far left retard moron that sympathize with the xenodiology at the same far retarded parasites that are currently working on the legacy industry. Or even years prior when the infection was not this bad. It's because they are telling him shit. He always sympathizes, hey, you are going to draw me some hints? Hey, you are going to draw me some hints? Because, well, that's since are the only ones that are willing to speak. Are you surprised that we always get this sort of information? But even what is not necessary anymore, because since we have this thing developed that Jason Schreier doesn't have, is pattern recognition. And we can see this miles away. Oh, Trouble Studio, oh, overwork, management fucking oh, what kind of developers they are. Oh, yeah, the same DEI hires. All the receipts of disasters making a mix up of shit. So even with this, not once does Jason Schreier acknowledge the widespread and immediate backlash from longtime fans who felt the game's tones and character design had abandoned the mature fantasy roots of the series. The first trailer of Failhard was lambasted across social media for its Fortnite-alike aesthetic, over-the-top quippy dialogue. Oh yeah, and that if I press this time sequence in the right moment, it's going to trigger. Yeah, I'm trans. Well, continue on. And an ensemble of characters that many felt looked like a diversity initiative rather than a cast grounded in the world's lore. Even internal testers reportedly flagged the snarky tone as a concern. Even QA and testers telling you, hey, your idea of a Dragon Age game is dog shit. Cut it off, please. Oh no, no, that's going to stay. I would laugh even harder, more than I could have in my life, in one of those fucking snarky dialogues. Since you know how even all the crashes that this fucking AAA game has, what's happening because one of those dialogues was poorly coded into the game's mechanics, into the game engine. That said, you know what? Because of this thing to crash. I hope it happens with what is remaining of this dying industry. I would hope to see something like that on it because I will keep laughing at it and making content out of it. Oh man. And well, this is what we are. So it was horrible. We already saw that. We saw the same many examples with other DEI games. DEI infested slop. So I want this more and say, yeah, gamers were right. Media mocked them anyway. When Failhard, was revealed, players spoke up. They said this wasn't Dragon Age. They said the trailer looked like a parody. They pointed out that the dark, complex world BioWare had once built now felt like it had been scrubbed down for modern sensibilities, and they were right. They pointed to ability to add top surgery scars in the character creator and the game's obsession with gender politics as a massive red flag proved that this long-awaited title had gone off the rails and embracing the myth of the modern audience. They always do. Even they say, oh, you hate Asian people. Not only these fucking racist pieces of shit use black as a token, they use Asian people also. But hey, you see your big titty, 40 years old, good looking, fuckable Japanese woman. They say, no, it doesn't have to be a gunner type. And they go with this face. And when the Asian complains that, hey, why did you make my kind of address of my ethnicity look horrible like this? Look, I don't even look like that. Even I'm moderate looking like that. Even women have complained about that shit. And they say, now you're making me ugly on purpose. And what I said about the Japanese woman, yeah, that's true. I have seen posts on social media sharing that, yeah, even among 40-year-old Japanese women with the good assets, they still look good. They are look like in their 20s. And what is the most important part? Since these fucking morons on the Western industry always claims that's not unrealistic, women are not like that. We can prove that to you many times and you still go la 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 la. They they they, they have brain damage. Seriously, make asylums great again. But well, we are almost at the end. Let's finish this a little. What's remaining here? But instead of listening, industry reporters like Schreier chose to dunk on them in real time, only to quietly pivot months later when the numbers collapsed and the pink slip hit inboxes. Because, surprise, surprise, even among his side said, dude, this is not when you're thinking it is, and he folded. That's the real issue here. It's not just that failed, it's that the people paid to cover this industry fairly have consistently missed legitimate fan feedback, especially when that feedback challenges the prevailing ideological narratives of entertainment press. Exactly. And honestly, even I'm not going to put blame on the game journalists. I blame the normies. I blame the consumer that can't stop consuming the same fucking retarded moron that shuts down its brain that say, yeah, I'm not going to listen to the charts. Oh, those anti-woke grifters. Sure, you can say that they are anti-woke grifters like Nelomi Mac that wants to put censorship because of mal degeneracy, those fake Christians. Yeah, I get it that from the right. But for the most offender part, the majority, the most offender in this case has always been the far left morons that he said, yeah, don't listen, consume and consume. And they are just clearly looking like fucking cockroaches to everyone's eyes. And the fucking consumers kept consuming. It's simple as that. Even I know I have to say, I'm not going to blame taking urinals for tricking them because they are not even putting the effort into tricking everyone. People like us, that's how what the things we enjoyed have been destroyed by them. We can clearly see their lies miles away. I have to repeat that. We have pattern recognition and we can identify these pathological liars. But the fact that the average consumer still refuses to even acknowledge something of, well, raise your standards, look at the old stuff. Why do you're not doing your research? Oh no, I have to consume the new stuff. And that's why, like I said, seeing those numbers on Steam just fucking proves that. Actually, it proves that the fucking consumer or the fan that is still even able to say, why, if you're a fan of Dragon Age, why would you buy this slot when it was clearly evident? You could clearly see it with your eyes just by looking at the trailers that EA put up themselves. It was a lost cause. Seriously, yeah. At this point, I'm not going to feel sympathy anymore for the consumer that kept consuming. Those fuckers got on their own. Those are the ones that, by their own volition, decided to trick themselves by this game urinalist. So, well, continue on. What Fred got right and what he didn't. To be fair, Schreier piece contains useful reporting. The article reveals the chaos behind the scenes at BioWare, the strain between Dragon Age and Mass Effect teams, and the top-down mismanagement that led the decisions after decisions being overturned mid-development. Yeah, I know that. We know that. The insights matter, but they aren't the whole story. They don't explain why players turned away in droves. A 10-year franchise gap doesn't explain it. Exactly. A late pivot to single player doesn't explain it. Even clunky combat doesn't fully explain it. What does explain it is, at least in part, is that the heart of the franchise has been ripped out and replaced with something that looked something like it was written for a TikTok demographic rather than the fantasy fans who built BioWare's reputation to begin with. Not only is that the angles ignored, and the only angles Schreier won't touch. Yeah, and just to end this, yeah, the fallout continues because they're still cutting costs, giving layoffs. Still, they're going to hire bloat. They're going to cancel even more projects without that, how even shut down the development of a Titanfall game, which, well, it was already dead on arrival. That shit, it wasn't even born. It was already a rotten corpse, a rotten corpse of a fetus. Because, well, it was another extraction shooter multiplayer, and just like, do you remember that to this day Titanfall 2 is still acclaimed because of the story they put out with in that one, and how good is still looking to this date compared to the old stuff that is fucking brain dead keep producing? Well, but ACA, they rightfully deserve this loss. Well, anyway, that said, yeah, another journo folding. I'm keep laughing, man. I'm enjoying. The tears are delicious. Son sabrosas. You can taste it in your mouth. Well, even if you are going to say stuff like I'm saying, but it's nice. This feeling that, yeah, we told you, motherfucker. Anyway, thanks for watching and please take care.